Would you check your electronic devices again, just in case you needed to turn those on during the break? And we're going to go right on to the third and final poem from each of our regional champs. And with her final recitation, here again is Rosa Hoyle.
Testimonial by Rita Dove. Back when the earth was new and heaven just a whisper, back when the names of things hadn't had time to stick, back when the smallest breezes melted summer into autumn, when all the poplars quivered sweetly in rank and file, the world called, and I answered. Each glance ignited to a gaze. I caught my breath and called that life, swooned between spoonfuls of lemon sorbet. I was pirouette and flourish. I was filigree and flame. How could I count my blessings when I didn't know their names? Back when everything was still to come, luck leaked out everywhere. I gave my promise to the world, and the world followed me here.
Here's our next participant. It's the last recitation from Morgan Borders.
Beautiful Wreckage by W.D. Earhart. What if I didn't shoot the old lady running away from our patrol, or the old man in the back of the head, or the little boy in the marketplace? What if the little boy, but he didn't have a grenade, and the woman in hue didn't lie in the rain in the mortar pit with 7 Marines just for food? Gaffney didn't get hit in the knee, Ames didn't die in the river, Ski didn't die in the medevac chopper between Com Thien and Da Nang. In Vietnamese, Com Thien means place of angels. What if it really was? Instead of the place of rotting sandbags, incoming heavy artillery, rats, and mud. What if the angels were Ames and Ski, or the lady, the man, and the boy, and they lifted Gaffney out of the mud and healed his shattered knee? What if none of it happened the way I said? Would it all be a lie? Would the wreckage be suddenly beautiful? Would the dead rise up and walk? Thank you.
It's now time for Brianna Walker with her third poem.
Childhood by Margaret Walker. When I was a child, I knew red miners, dressed raggedly and wearing carbide lamps. I saw them come down red hills to their camps, dyed with red dust from old Ishkuta mines. Night after night I met them on the roads, or on the streets and towns I caught their glance, the swing of dinner buckets in their hands, and grumbling undermining all their words. I also lived in low cotton country, where moonlight hovered over ripe haystacks, or stumps of trees and croppers' rotting shacks, where famine, terror, flood, and plague nearby, where sentiment and hatred still held sway, and only bitter land was washed away.
With her third and final recitation, here is Kristie Tryon.
Her Kind by Anne Sexton. I have gone out, a possessed witch, haunting the black air, braver at night, dreaming evil. I have done my hitch over the plain houses, light by light. Lonely thing, 12-fingered out of mind. A woman like that is not a woman, quite. I have been her kind. I have found the warm caves in the woods, filled them with skillets, carvings, shelves, closets, silks, innumerable goods. Fix the suppers for the worms and the elves, whining, rearranging the disaligned. A woman like that is misunderstood. I've been her kind. I have ridden in your cart, driver, waved my nude arms at villages going by, learning the last bright road survivor, where your flame still bites my thigh and my ribs crack, where your wheels wind. A woman like that is not ashamed to die. I have been her kind. Thank you.
With his final poem in today's competition, this is Grant Hartley.
Teaching English from an Old Composition Book by Gary Soto. My chalk is no longer than a chip of fingernail. Chip, by which I must explain this Monday night the verbs to get, to wear, to cut. I'm not given much. These tired students, knuckle-wrapped from work as roofers, sour from scrubbing toilets and pedestal sinks. I'm given this room with 5 windows, a coffee machine, a piano with busted strings, the music of how we feel as the sun falls, exhausted from keeping up. I stand at the blackboard. The chalk is worn to a hangnail, nearly gone, the dust of some educational bone. By and by, I'm Cantinflas, the comic busybody in front. I say, I get the coffee. I pick up a coffee cup and sip. I click my heels and say, I wear my shoes. I bring an invisible fork to my mouth and say, I eat the chicken. Suddenly, the class is alive, each one putting on hats and shoes, drinking sodas and beers, cutting flowers and steaks, a pantomime of sumptuous living. At break, I pass out cookies. Augustine, the Guatemalan, asks in Spanish, Teacher, what is tally-ho? I look at the word in the composition book. I raise my face to the bare bulb for a blind answer. I stutter, then say, Es como adelante. Augustine smiles, then nudges a friend in the next desk, now smarter by 1 word. After the cookies are eaten, we move ahead to prepositions, under, over, and between. Useful words when La Migra open the doors of their idling vans. At 10 to 9, I'm tired of acting, and they're tired of their roles. When class ends, I clap my hands of chalk dust, and 2 students applaud, thinking it's a new verb. I tell them, adelante, and they pick up their old books. They smile, and in return, cry, tally-ho, as they head for the door.
Our next recitation is from Josh Boyd.
The Empty Dance Shoes by Cornelius Eady. My friends, as it has been proven in the laboratory, an empty pair of dance shoes will sit on the floor like a wart until it is given a reason to move. Those of us who study inertia, those of us covered with wild hair and sleep, can state this without fear. The energy in a pair of shoes at rest is about the same as that of a clown knocked flat by a sandbag. This you can tell your friends with certainty. A clown, flat on his back, is a lot like an empty pair of dancing shoes. An empty pair of dancing shoes is also a lot like a leaf pressed in a book. And now you know a simple truth. A leaf, Preston Say the Colossus by Sylvia Plath, is no different from an empty pair of dance shoes. Even if those shoes are in the middle of the Stardust Ballroom with all the lights on and hot music shakes the window up and down the block. This is the secret of inertia. The shoes run on their own sense of the world. They are in alignment with the man who walks over the bridge. A practical and personal application of inertia can be found in the question, whose turn is it to take out the garbage? An empty pair of dance shoes is a lot like the answer to this question, as well as book-length poems set in the Midwest. To sum up, an empty pair of dance shoes is a lot like the sand the 98-pound weakling brushes from his cheeks as the bully tows away his girlfriend. Later, when he spies the coupon at the back of the comic book, he is about to act upon a different set of scientific principles. He is ready to dance.
It's now time for Lydia Meece with her third poem.
The Death of Allegory by Billy Collins. I am wondering what became of all those tall abstractions that used to pose, robed and statuesque, in paintings and parade about on the pages of the Renaissance, displaying their capital letters like license plates. Truth cantering on a powerful horse, chastity, eyes downcast, fluttering with veils. Each was marble come to life, a thought in a coat. Courtesy bowing with one hand always extended. Villainy sharpening an instrument behind a wall. Reason with her crown and constancy alert behind a helm. They are all retired now, consigned to a Florida for tropes. Justice is there standing by an open refrigerator. Valor lies in bed listening to the rain. Even death has nothing to do but mend his cloak and hood, and all their props are locked away in a warehouse. Hourglasses, globes, blindfolds, and shackles. Even if you called them back, there are no places left for them to go. No garden of mirth or bower of bliss. The valley of forgiveness is lined with condominiums, and chainsaws are howling in the forest of despair. Here on the table near the window is a vase of peonies, and next to it, black binoculars and a money clip. Exactly the kind of thing we now prefer. Objects that sit quietly on a line in lowercase. Themselves and nothing more. A wheelbarrow, an empty mailbox, a razor blade resting in a glass ashtray. And as for the others, the great ideas on horseback, and the long-haired virtues in embroidered gowns, it looks as though they have traveled down the final page of storybooks. The one that winds up a green hillside and disappears into an unseen valley where everyone must be fast asleep.
Nicole Andrews is up next with a recitation of her third poem.
Candles by Carl Dennis. If on your grandmother's birthday you burn a candle to honor her memory, you might think of burning an extra to honor the memory of someone who never met her, a man who may have come to the town she lived in, looking for work and never found it. Picture him taking a stroll one morning after a month of grief with the Wantads to refresh himself in the park before moving on. Suppose he notices on the gravel path the shards of a green glass bottle that your grandmother, then still a girl, will be destined to step on when she wanders barefoot away from her school picnic if he doesn't stoop down and scoop the mess up with the Wantad section and carry it to a trash can. For you to burn a candle for him, you needn't suppose the cut would be a deep one. Just deep enough to keep her at home the night of the hayride when she meets Helen, who is soon to become her dearest friend, whose brother George, 30 years later, helps your grandfather with a loan so his shoe store doesn't go under in the Great Depression. And his son, your father, is able to stay in school where his love of learning is fanned into flames. A love he labors later to kindle in you. How grateful you are for your father's efforts is shown by the candles you've burned for him. But today, for a change, why not a candle for the man whose name is unknown to you? Take a moment to wonder whether he died at home with friends and family, or alone on the road, on the lookout for no one to sit at his bedside and hold his hand. The very hand it's time for you to imagine holding.
With his third poem selection, this is Terry Lee Watkins, Jr.
The New World by Amiri Baraka. The sun is folding. Cars stall and rise beyond the window. The workmen leave the street to the bums and painters' wives pushing their babies home. Those who realize how fitful and indecent consciousness is stare solemnly out on the emptying street. The mourners and soft singers, the liars and seekers after ridiculous righteousness, all my doubles and friends, whose mistakes cannot be duplicated by machines. And this is all of our arrogance, being broke or broken, dribbling out the eyes, wasted lyricists and men who have seen their dreams come true, only seconds after they knew those dreams to be horrible conceits and plastic fantasies of gesture and extension. Shoulders, hair, and tongues, distributing misinformation about the nature of understanding. No one is that simple or priggish. To be alone out of spite and grown strong in its practice. Mystics in 2 pants suits. Our style and discipline, controlling the method of knowledge. Beatniks like bohemians go calmly out of style, and boys are dying in Mexico who did not get the word. The lateness of their fabrication mark their holes with filthy needles. The lusts of the world. This will not be news. The simple, damning lust. Float flat magic in load-changing evenings. Shiver your hands and dance. Empty all of me for knowing, and will the danger of identification. Let me sit and go blind in my dreaming, and be that dream in purpose and device. A fantasy of the feet. A strong, strong man, older, but no wiser than the defect of love.
Here is Elizabeth Moody with her final recitation.
They Are Hostile Nations by Margaret Atwood. In view of the fading animals, the proliferation of sewers and fears, the sea clogging, the air nearing extinction, we should be kind. We should take warning. We should forgive each other. Instead, we are opposite. We touch as though attacking. The gifts we bring, even in good faith maybe, warp in our hands to implements, to maneuvers. Put down that target of me you guard inside your binoculars. In turn, I will surrender this aerial photograph, your vulnerable sections marked in red, I have found so useful. See, we are alone in the dormant field, the snow that cannot be eaten or captured. Here there are no armies. Here there is no money. It is cold and getting colder. We need each other's breathing, warmth. Survival is the only war we can afford. Stay walking with me. There's almost time. If we can only make it as far as the possibly last summer. Thank you.
The runner-up is from Southwest Central High School, Nicole Andrews. And the winner from St. Charles, Terry Lee Watkins, Jr. You get two big trophies. Oh my God. First one is for Poetry Out Loud. That's upside down. It will have your name on it.
Okay.
This is for your school. And this is for your school. This is the traveler trophy that goes in your schools. Cheers. That's the traveler. Okay, you both go to the school, but one of them comes down. Okay. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you for coming, everybody.